All right, so we're going to talk about voicings now, and we're going to stick with the same blues progression we did in the last lesson with the patterns for improvising. Okay, so we're going to use that same progression, and we're going to talk about 6 different voicings, 6 different versions of voicings for this. And this is just the entry level. This is the beginning lesson, and I'll do these 6 in this lesson, and then in the next lesson, a few lessons down the road, we'll get into some more advanced voicing concepts. Okay. Now, six different types of voicings might sound a little intimidating, but you already know 2 of them. And the first one, of course, is just the shell voicing. Okay. So we've got that one down pretty well, right? Okay. The next one we're going to do, we've already been introduced to with Bag's group, and it's the 3rd and 7th. So we're going to play the 3rd and 7th of each chord. And for now, I'm not going to write out a full 12-bar blues chorus with all of the voicings all written out for you, because really there's just F7, B flat 7, D7, G minor 7, and C7. So there's only 5 different chords necessary for the 12 bars. And I don't want you to be reading music when you're playing this. You need to know the form, and then I want you to know the voicings and be able to plug them into the form. Not be reading music, but understand them by how they're constructed, understand them by the shapes under your fingers, and understand them by the way they sound. Okay? It's when you combine that tactile sense with the intellectual understanding and the auditory understanding of the harmony that you truly start to make these voicings your own. Okay, so this is going to start out very simple. We're going to start out with just 3rds and 7ths, and for now we're going to do it with a bass note low in the left hand and a 3rd and 7th in the right hand. Okay, so right here this is F7, this is B flat 7, here's D7, G minor 7, and C7. So let me just play through the form. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now, when you're playing these, this right here, this 3rd and 7th, there's no rule about where you start, okay? If you look at this F7, do you see the 7th is on the bottom and the 3rd is on top? But when we go to B flat, the 3rd is on the bottom and the 7th is on top, okay? So any of these can have either the 3rd or the 7th on the bottom. The one that we just did started here, but we could also start here. Okay, and we could do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, to me, this is starting to sound a little too high. This doesn't sound as resonant, as rich as this does down here. Okay? And one thing to keep in mind with the voicings is that, and this is going to seem like an incredibly unprofound thing to say, but every voicing is made up of different notes. And because it's the acoustics of sound, this same voicing right here, if I just pull this up here, okay, and if I come up here and do it here, it starts to sound really thin the higher you go. Okay, do you notice that? Okay, so every voicing sounds better in specific ways depending on that particular voicing. You can't say this particular voicing sounds good on every chord. You have to look at the specific chord and listen to what it sounds like based on the register of the piano and what sounds good to you as well. Okay, so let's go back to the one in this register. Okay, so now we're going to add a note to this. And what I want to add on the 7th chords, which is the B flat, F7, B flat 7, D7, and the C7, we're going to add either the 9th or the 13th, and we're going to do it in a way where we have the 3rd and 7th and then an additional note up on top. So for this one, I've added the 13th on top. When I go to the B flat, I've added the 9th on top. Again, 9th on top, back to the 13th on top. Now this D7 chord is like the 5-7 chord of G minor, so we're actually going to add this note right here, okay? This is the 9th, but it's the sharp 9. Okay. For the G minor 7, we're going to add the 5th on top. And then we can keep that note. It becomes the 9th of the C7, and then we're back. Okay, so we have our 3rd and 7th that we played in the previous version is still here in this spot. Okay, we're just adding, sort of through fuzzy logic, a note on top. Okay, and it's either the 9th or the 13th, or if it's the minor 7 chord, we add the 5th. Okay. Now you want to play this 2 different ways. You want to play this with the voicing in the right hand and the bass note in the left hand. Okay, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. A couple lessons from now, we're actually going to talk about bass lines in the left hand. So you can play these voicings and a walking bass line. So that's a really good use for those voicings. Now the other thing we want to do with them is play the voicing in the left hand. Now you would do this if you're playing with a bass player, because you don't need to be covering the bass. If you're playing in a trio or a duo with a bass player or with a quartet or quintet. So you can play the voicing in the left hand and get to know it really well. One thing I do, if I want to hear what this voicing sounds like, I want to play it in my left hand, but I want to hear the bass note, is I'll just reach over and play the bass note with it so I can hear it and feel it. But a really great thing to put this in the left hand is for improvising. Playing this in the left hand while improvising sounds really, really good. So that's a really great use of that voicing. So we had the shell voicing, we had the 3rds and 7ths, and we had this one where we've added a 3rd note on top, either the 9th or the 13th. So now we're going to add another note here. We're going to add the 9th and the 13th. Okay, so I'm going to do it here in the right hand so we can do it with the bass note. But here we've got A, E flat, we got our D. I'm also adding in the G, which is the 9th of this chord. Then if I go to B flat, here's 3rd, 7th, 9th, 13th. Okay, and for the D7, sharp 9, flat 13. For the G minor 7, we're going to do 3, 5, 7, 9. And then for the C7, 3, 7, 9, 13, and we're back. So this is what this would sound like in a full 12-bar chorus. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once again, you want to put these in your left hand, and you can improvise over it. I was leaving out those notes because I usually don't play the extra note in the middle in this voicing. Okay, but you can. And lots of people do use that. Okay, so that is that our fourth one? I think that's our fourth one, yes. Now the fifth one, so all of these so far have actually just been one-handed voicings, right? We're either playing them in our right hand while the left hand is playing the bass, or we're playing them in our left hand while our right hand is improvising. Okay, so we're gonna now move into two-handed voicings. And to bridge the gap from one-handed to two-handed, people often find that kind of difficult. It's like, well, where are you getting the extra notes from? But actually, it's really, really simple. So we're just going to take this voicing that we just did, this voicing, with the 9th and the 13th, and I want you to think of it as two different pieces. We've got here the 3rd and the 7th, and then we have another piece that overlaps it with the 9th and the 13th. So we've got two different pieces. All we're going to do is take this 9th and 13th, and we're going to take this note G, and we're going to put it up here. So it's the same notes as this. We're just taking the G and putting it on top. So it's the same voicing, it's just spread out. So we've got 3, 7, 9, and 13. And now we have a two-handed voicing. 1, 2, and so here's F7 and B flat 7. Remember this voicing? We're going to take the G and put it on top. And we're back. On the D7, this one, see that B flat right there? We're going to take that B flat up here. And then on the G minor 7, we're going to take this A, do this. So playing through the form, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, sounds really good, right? Now here's a cool thing with this one. You see how we have two notes in each hand? We can actually redistribute these notes and do 3 in the right hand. This, and we can add in the bass note. So now we have a 5-note voicing we're playing, and we're also covering the bass. And listen to how good this sounds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the last one we're going to do. We're going to do this here, like this, and in the right hand, we're going to play stacked fourths. Okay. There's a little bit of overlap between this and the last one we did, but it's not an exactly one-to-one mapping. But you know how we did this in the previous one? Now we're going to add the C on top. And we got this voicing with the 3rd and the 7th, and these stacked fourths right here. And it sounds really good. The only problem is in the B flat 7, it's just a different voicing here. We wouldn't want to keep this here because this is doubling the D. This sounds better, but I'm still stacked fourths. We're back. Okay, now look at this with the D7. Listen to how good that sounds. Okay. Now for the G minor 7, we're going to do this. See these stacked fourths? This is the same right hand we did over the F7. And check this out. This is actually interesting. G minor 7, C7, F7. The right hand stays the same for all of those. So here it is in the full 12-bar form. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are really useful voicings when you're comping behind someone else's soloing or when the band is playing the head and you want to have some nice big voicings to play. Okay, so we've done 6 different voicings, is that right? Shell voicings, thirds and sevenths, third and seventh with an extra note, that's 3, third and seventh with the 9th and the 13th, that's 4, and then we've spread those notes out, that's 5, and then we did with the fourths on top, that's 6. Okay. Now, all of these voicings, the left-hand voicings, the one-handed voicings, you can put in your left hand, and you can go back to the previous lesson where we did all these patterns, and you can use this voicing now to practice your patterns, like and then use these voicings to practice improvising. Okay. All right, now, I want to look at another tune. Well, you needn't, because this tune will allow you to take each one of these voicings, that's a dominant 7th voicing, and play it through a whole bunch of different keys. All right, so take a look at the chart for this. I'll put it up above. Okay, if you look at the A section, do you see how it goes from F to F sharp 7? Okay, so every one of these voicings you did for F7, you can practice taking it up a half step, and that's your A section of the song. Okay, so if you want to do the shell voicing and play the melody, or with the thirds and sevenths, or if you want to do this voicing, but the real challenge happens in the bridge. Take a look at that, where it goes G, and I'm going to do it with just the 3rd and 7th for the first time through. So it's G7 for 2 measures, A flat 7 for 2 measures, and then 2 beats per chord. A7, B flat 7, B7, B flat 7, A7, A flat 7, G7, C7, and we're back. Okay, do you see how this bridge especially that moves through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it moves through 6 different dominant 7th chords, okay? Great for practicing all of these. So here, say we've got this voicing. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can also put that in the left hand with the melody. could do that with these voicings, with the stacked fourths on top. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. A7, now we do the chromatic. You see how that's going to give you a really good chance to practice all of these voicings and to practice moving them around the keyboard. And in fact, if you take one of these voicings, I would suggest just taking it up and down the chromatic scale to become really familiar with it. You can do that with every one of these voicings. Okay, so that's all I plan to cover. But again, we have the 6 different types of voicings. You can plug them into the 12-bar blues. If it's a single hand voicing, you can put it in your left hand and practice the patterns we did last time, or practice improvising in the right hand. If it's a two-handed voicing, you can practice plugging it in so you're going to be ready to comp when you're playing these chords behind another person who's improvising. Okay? All right, so that's it for this lesson. The next lesson I want to talk about improvising again, build upon what we did last time. The one after that's going to talk about bass lines. And then I think we'll come back and do another round of voicings, and we'll get into more advanced voicings. These are pretty basic voicings, and we'll do some more altered voicings and upper structures and other kinds of things you can do over this progression and other tunes as well. All right, so keep practicing, listen to music, play along with recordings. Again, I'm going to keep linking those same recordings. Now's the Time, Billy's Bounce, Straight No Chaser, Barry Harris Morning Coffee, and every one of these voicings, you can practice it playing along with those recordings. And you'll get an opportunity to plug them into a tune with good time and good feel and play with a good rhythm section. All right? Thanks, everybody. Again, happy practicing, and if you made it this far, thank you so much, and I'd really appreciate it if you hit like and subscribe to my channel. These lessons, these are basically lessons I've given to students, and I charge, $75 for a lesson like this, and I'm giving them for free here, and I'm very happy to do that. I want to share this with people, but if you are getting some value, if you would hit subscribe, it'd be really appreciated. All right, thank you, everybody, and see you next time.